Hello and welcome back to another weekly recap video. This week we're going to be looking at Indices Laws, Rounding and BIDMAS. Okay, before we start we're going to ask ourselves our golden question, what we want to achieve at the end of the year and how we're going to get there. So what we're going to achieve is a high grade. How we're going to get there? We're working hard, watching these videos, revising and making sure we keep our attendance high. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, Indices Laws. So when we have a power multiplied by another power, the law here is that we add the powers together. So x to the power of 7 multiplied by x to the power of 7 is going to give me x to the power of 14. We add the indices, the index numbers together. So the next one, question 2, we're going to have y to the power of, well, we've got 4 here, and remember every number has an invisible 1 after it. So we're going to add those together, which is going to give me y to the power of 5. Here we've got 4 to the power of 4 and 4 to the power of 7. Multiply those together. It's going to stay as 4. Okay, because the number is already the same, we keep it the same. And we add these together, which is going to give me 4 to the power of 11. Question 4, we've got x to the power of 8 multiplied by x to the power of minus 1. So what we're doing here is x to the power of 8 plus minus 1. So plus minus makes a minus. So it's going to be to the power of 7. 8 plus minus 1 is 7. Okay, so you can pause it now, have a go at these, and then unpause it and we'll go through it. So 4 to the power of 7 divided by 4 to the power of 6. When we're dividing two numbers with indices, we subtract the powers from each other. So this is going to be 4 to the power of 7 take 6 is 1. So 4 to the power of 1. And we saw on the last part, we can just write that as 4. Any number to the power of 1 is just the number itself. We've got y to the power of 2 divided by y. Remember, this has got to the power of 1 after it. So 2 take away 1. We're going to have y to the power of 1, which again we can write just as y. Okay, this is the same question written slightly differently, but this is still saying y to the power of, 4 to the power of 3 divided by 4 to the power of 4. So it's going to leave us with 4 to the power of, well, 3 take away 4 is negative 1. So 4 to the power of negative 1. And here we have 4 to the power of negative 2 divided by 4 to the power of 3. So we've got 4. Negative 2 take away 3 is going to give us negative 5. So 4 to the power of negative 5. Okay, so pause again, have a go, and wait for us to go through it. Okay, so now we've got brackets and another power outside the bracket. What that means is we multiply these two numbers together. So when we were multiplying, we added. When we were dividing, we subtracted. When you have a power raised to another power, you multiply. So this one here will be 2 to the power of 8. This one here will be 3 to the power of 6. I've got the wrong order here. Oh well. 2 to the power of 15. And question 4, we've got 2 to the power of 12. Okay, when we're dealing with negative powers, so we came to some negative powers in the answers to the earlier questions, but this shows us how to convert negative powers or simplify them. When you have a negative power, the easiest thing to do is you look at the question, you ignore this part, you ignore the minus, so ignore that for a second, and then you just think, right, what's this going to be? 2 squared. 2 squared is 4, okay? But when we have a negative power, we just simply put 1 on top of it, and then that's simplified. Okay, question 2, ignore the power. So 10 squared, which is 100. Okay, and then we think back, okay, but it's a negative power, so what we always have to do, if it's negative power, we put 1 on top. Okay, number 3. Forget that. So it's 4 squared, which is 16. And then, remember, if it's negative power, we put a 1 on the top. And the last one, we've got 10 to the power of minus 3. So ignore the minus. 10 cubed, 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 10 again is 1,000. And because it's negative power, we put 1 on the top. Okay, a bit of rounding. So first we're going to look at rounding the nearest 10. So nearest 10 means we start. So there's our hundreds. There's our tens. There's our units. Okay, so if we're looking for nearest 10, that means we're looking at the tens and the units. It's always the ones we're looking for and the one after it. So 63, the nearest 10 to 63 is 60. If this number is less than 5, then we round it down. So if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, we round it down to 60. If it was 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we round it up to 70. But because it's closer to 60, we're going to round this to 760. And this one's the nearest 10. We've got 1, 3, 4, 8. So we're looking at the tens and the units. So tens and units, 48 rounds up to 50. And the numbers before stay the same. So 1, 3, 5, 0. 8, 3, 4 to the nearest 10. So we're looking at the tens and units. Again, 34. It rounds down to 30. It's closer to 30 than it is to 40. So it rounds down to 30. That becomes 30. And the 8 stays the same. So 834. Rounds down to 830. Okay, round to the nearest 100. So now we're looking at the hundreds and the tens rather than the tens and the units. So hundreds and tens. So we've got 7 at the beginning. That stays the same. 51 rounds down to 50. So 50. So that's the nearest 100. So when you're saying nearest 100, when you say the word out, you should just be saying 7,500. There should be nothing other numbers after that. Okay, 5392 to the nearest 100. So you've got your thousands, your hundreds, your tens, units. Okay, so we're looking at hundreds and tens, because we want the nearest 100. So 39 rounds up to 40. So make that 40. Everything after it becomes a 0, and what comes before it stays the same. Nearest 1,000. So we've got our units, tens, hundreds, thousands. Okay, thousands. If we're rounding to the nearest 1,000, it means that we are looking at the thousands and the hundreds. So we've got 2, 2. So imagine that's 22. That's going to round down to 20. Everything else becomes 0 after that. And the 8 at the beginning remains the same. So if we were to say this, it would be 82,000. Okay, nothing after the 1,000. You're not saying any words apart from 1,000. That's the last word you say when you're saying it out. Okay, so we've got our units, tens, hundreds, thousands, and this would be 10,000. So don't want the units, don't care about the tens, don't care about the hundreds. It's the hundreds and the thousands that we're looking at. So we've got 0 and 3 in the thousands. So 3 rounds down to 0. So this is just going to be 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So 10,000. Okay, so we can round down to 10,000. Okay, rounding to decimal places. So decimal places can be abbreviated to DP. So if we've got 2.31774, one decimal place, that means we want this one, that's 1, and that's 2. So we're just looking, just like before, at the one we want, which is the one decimal place, and the one after it. So you can draw a little box around that. So 31 rounds down to 30. Okay, so it's going to be 2.30. Everything else we ignore, we don't need any of that other part. But because we only want one decimal place, we only need one number after the decimal point, we get rid of that 0. So it's just going to be 2.3. Okay, 2 decimal places. So that's 1, that's 2. We want 2 decimal places, so we need to have a look at 2 and 3. So we're looking at position 2 and 3. So we're looking at these two numbers. So 53, which is going to round down. 53 rounds down to 50. Okay, everything before goes back in. So 9.450. Okay, but because we only want 2 numbers, we've got to get rid of that final 0. 98.7521 to 3 decimal places. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Okay, but because we want 3, we've got to look at the 4th. So when you've got the 3, we look at the 3rd and 4th. So 21 is the number we're looking at. 21 rounds down to 20. Then everything else before goes back in. 98.7520. But again, we only want 3 numbers here. We've got 4, so you get rid of any zeros from the end. Okay, rounding significant figures. A significant figure is any number that isn't a 0. So here, our first significant figure is going to be 8. And our second significant figure is going to be 1. And our third significant figure is going to be 2. And our fourth significant figure is going to be this 2. We want 2 significant figures, so that means we're looking at the second and third number. So 12. What does 12 round down to? It rounds down to 10. So we put 10, and we turn this 2 into a 0, and we leave this 8 as it is. We don't get rid of these zeros, because these zeros are significant. These zeros are important. If we get rid of those, we're saying that 8,122 rounds down to 81. Well, it doesn't. It's going to round down to 8,100. Okay, so we have to keep those zeros. If they're before a decimal point, you keep the zeros. If they're after a decimal point, you get rid of the zeros. Okay, so we've got 79,000 or 79.622. 3 significant figures. That is our first significant figure. That is our second. This is our third. Okay, the points between them. So we need the third and the fourth. Okay, if we're rounding the 3 significant figures, we need the third and the fourth. So we're looking at these 2 numbers, 66, which 66 rounds up to 70. Okay, and then we've got these numbers back in, 79.70. And as we just said, we get rid of any zeros if they're after a point. So we get rid of that final 0 there. So 79.7. When you're starting with zeros, you have to do something slightly different. Because we said the first significant figure is the first number that isn't a 0. So we count here. That's not a significant number. That's not a significant number. That's not significant. Okay. The first significant figure is this 8. Okay. So we want the first one and the second. So these are the numbers we're rounding. 85, and rounding 85, that rounds up to 90. So we put the 90, and then put everything else back in from before. So 0.0090, and then we're going to get rid of any extra zeros at the end. So 0.009. Okay, the next one, 2 significant figures. So we're going 1, 2, but we need to go to the next one because we need the third number to be able to round them. Box them off. So 58, that rounds up to 60. So then we've got 0.000160, and we knock off any zeros from the end. Okay, BIDMAS, something that can even catch out the best of us. So we need to make sure that this is how we answer the question. This is the order we answer a question. So when you have a question that's got all different operations or different symbols in, you have to answer it in this order. So the first thing you look for are brackets. So if there's brackets, that's what you do, that part first. Then you do indices. And your indices are your powers. So anything that's like 3 squared or 10 3 cubed, anything that's got a power on, that's your indices. So you do your brackets first, then you do your powers, your indices. Then you divide. Then you multiply. You add. And then finally, you subtract. Okay, so brackets first, then any powers you have, then any divisions, multiplications, additions, and finally subtractions. So if we look at this first question, we're going to look along. We've got a multiplication and an add. So if we look back to BIDMAS, what comes first, working left to right, we've got multiplication before addition. So we're going to do this part first. So 3 times 2 is 6. So we're going to do that part first, and then we're going to add the 5, which gives us 11. Okay, this question looks very similar still, but we've got 3 plus 2 multiplied by 5. Okay, now the multiplication is here. Okay, so we look along our list, multiply first, so that's going to be 10. And then we add the 3, which gives us 13. Next one, we've got some brackets, so we're going to do this part first, 5 plus 2, which is 7, and then we're going to multiply by 3, which gives us 21. We've got here, we've got a subtraction, we've got subtract, add, and then multiply. So here, we're going to multiply first. So this one's a bit tricky. So multiply first, which gives us 10. And now we have 30, take away 3 plus 10. When we've got a subtraction and an addition in the same line, what you want to do is just work left to right. So ignore BIDMAS. When it's just these two next to each other, you work left to right. So 30, take away 3, which is 27, add 10, which is 37. Okay, that can catch anybody out, that one. Okay, E, we've got the brackets here. So we're going to do the brackets first. So we've got 5. And then we've got multiplication. So we're going to multiply that by 5, which gives us 25. And then finally, we've got a subtraction. So it's 30, take away 25, which is going to give us 5. F, we've got multiplication, a subtraction, and an addition. So we're going to do the times first. So we're going to do 3 times 2, which is 6. And then we've got 30, take 6, plus 5. So 30 take away 6 is 24. Add 5 is 29. Again, we've got some brackets here. 2 plus 5 is 7. Then we're going to multiply that by 3, which is 21. 30 take away 21 is 9. Again, we've got brackets here. 30 take away 3 is 27. Multiplied by 2 is 54. Add the 5 is going to give us 60. Finally, it's going to give us 60. Oh, no, it's not. It's going to give us 59. Come on. Okay, with 2 pairs of brackets, we've got 30 take away 3, which is 27, multiplied by 2 plus 5, which is 7. So we've got 27 multiplied by 7. If we can do the grid method, but I'm just going to quickly put in calculator, gives me 189. And finally, we've got brackets here, which is 2 plus 5, which is 7. Then we've got multiplication, but we've got the squared first. So we're going to make this into 9. So now we've got 30. Take away 9 times 7. We're going to do that multiplication. So 9 times 7, which is 63. So 30, take away 63, is going to give us negative 33. Okay. If we need to rewind to go through any of that, that's fine. Maybe rewind and have a go at them all, then watch it again. Okay, so that brings us to the end of another video. I hope you find it useful. We're a couple of weeks more of these until we get to a little break. Just remember, every lesson when you come in, you're going to be asking yourself, what do you want to achieve by the end of the year? And then asking yourself, how are you going to get there? Okay, I'll catch you next time.